Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. Hello, Libration Nation. This week we are reading a delightful book, Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire, which offers a whimsical yet dark exploration of fantasy realms where each child's stories revolves around finding and losing mystical doors to other worlds. My guest this week is Britt Keup. Britt is a corporate girly by day and an avid reader at night. During the pandemic, she created a Bookstagram account, What Britt Reads, to share her lifelong love of reading and be part of a community that loves reading as much as she does. She's not posting as much on her grid, but she's still furiously reading behind the scenes and sharing fun Instagram stories about the books she's reading and the love of her two pups, Ollie and Smokey. Aside from devouring a great book, Britt enjoys spending time with her fiance, Brian, her dogs, fitness, live music, spending time with friends, and she's currently writing her first novel. If you're looking for book recommendations, check out her Bookstagram account, What Britt Reads. Our drink this week is one of my favorite Cabernet Sauvignons. It's a profile both Britt and I love, Double Black's Cabernet Paso Robles. Lastly, it is National Library Week, so support your local library by visiting a branch, getting a card if you don't already have one, and finding other ways to get involved. Libraries need our support now more than ever. All right, let's get to it. Britt, thank you so much for coming down here today. Also, I just followed you on Instagram. So this is your first time meeting.
Yeah.
And I followed you on Instagram this week. And did you just get engaged?
I did. Oh, gosh, the internet. Yeah, we just got engaged yesterday. It's brand new.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
Cassie.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited.
It's an exciting time.
For sure.
Yeah. Was it a surprise?
Total surprise.
Okay.
Our dogs were involved, which if you've, cruised the page, they're very involved. They're like my children I don't have. So, yeah, it was perfect. Just intimate, us. Yeah.
Huge congrats.
Thank you.
To you and your partner and everything going forward.
Thanks.
And I guess so you were like so chill about the drink and you're like, I like Cabernet and I like Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
So this is a double black Cabernet. And so I thought, with the book, yeah. With the book, I was trying to do a perfect pairing, but there's so many different aspects to it. So this is actually one of my husband's favorite Cabernets. And it's like just a full-bodied raspberry, dark fruit kind of thing. So
yeah, it's really good. Like I love a darker type of wine. So yeah, anything red. Red feels classic. Mm-hmm. Huge, like sweet cocktail person. So usually more beer or red wine. But yeah, this is really good. Good choice.
Yeah, and cheers to your engagement. So it's exciting.
Oh man, I'm blushing.
Oh. Okay, so I am excited to talk to you about Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. I had to look up how to pronounce her name because it's Seanan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who were you when you first picked up this book?
That is such a good question because I was thinking back to when I first read this book, and even the series itself is at a time in my life where I was making a big life decision to step away from something, and it was sad, but it was the right thing to do now that I'm at the place where I am now. But usually when I'm in a weird headspace or somewhere where I feel like I need to escape, fantasy is usually the genre in which I dive into. And these books, I hadn't seen them often and they were little. Every Heart a Doorway is like 170 pages. Yeah. And I was like, this sounds really good. And I heard great things about Seanan. I picked it up and just was hooked. It was just a world that was very different. Her writing is beautiful. And I just remember thinking, wow, I just sat down and read that in one sitting. Like that you just didn't think about anything else that was happening in life. You just kind of got sucked in. And it was just a quick read. And that's where I was, yeah.
Did you, so this is the first book in the Wayward Children's series. So
Right.
it's like the 11th book's coming out. So did you read this when it was just a standalone, or did you like immediately eat all the other ones up too?
I ate the other ones up too. So the first book came out in 2016. And at the time, I had first read it in 2022. So I think she had roughly like 7 or 8 of them out. She just came out with the 10th. I feel like historically she's had one a year come out. And yeah, I just devoured them. I just started buying them and I was like, I'm just going to keep adding to my stack. They were just super digestible. Like I feel like when you get into fantasy, they're really thick books a lot of the time because world building is so hard.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And so something that was, not that I'm against a thick book, but at the time sometimes I just want to get something that's like a shorter read, something short and sweet. And this series and the books were just perfect for that.
Yeah. A lot of times I can't get to the books that I interview people for this because they're very long.
Yeah.
But I picked this one up and I was like, I can do this. So I actually did read it. It was super cute. Yeah. But yeah, just for the listener, like Britt saying, if you want something that you're in and out and just pulled into real quick, it's perfect. And then the story itself I thought was really interesting. Do you want to guide us through like where does it start? These wayward children, who are they?
Yeah, so each story follows a different child, and essentially this first one, you're diving into the story of Nancy, and Nancy found her door, and that's essentially what the story is like. These children come from interesting or diverse, different, rough backgrounds, and they find these doors, and the doors are to new worlds, and the new worlds are kind of like essentially who they are deep down. It's pretty cool. It's basically based on multiple stories. The Every Heart a Doorway is based on like Persephone and Hades. It's like a spinoff of those kinds of stories. But essentially, Nancy is in the world of the dead, I think. And Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children is where she lands because she somehow leaves her world and her door behind. And the kids who come back, like Nancy, who come back into the real world, come back and their parents or their guardians are like, no, there's no such thing. So essentially this home is for all the kids who have lost their doors or come back from their worlds and are trying to reacclimate. And some of the children find their doors again and some that don't. And in this case, Nancy, she comes to the school because her parents are like, I don't understand what's happening here. You were just missing for X amount of time. And so she goes to school to reacclimate into the real world. And Eleanor is obviously the owner of the school, and she also is aware of the doors and the worlds. And so it's all of these children that you follow throughout the story. And some kids find their doors and some don't. This first story, I won't give anything away. But Nancy meets some of the characters that you'll see thematically throughout the series, and they try and help each other find their doors. And it flows really well. The first book flows really well into the next iteration, which is the story of Jack and Jill. So they're 2 twins that you'll see in the book. And they also had lost their way from their world. So that's like the premise of it.
Yeah. I did. Okay, so when I first started reading it, I thought, I didn't know for sure. I thought it was kind of like a kid's story.
Yeah.
And then they're like using really strong language. And I was like, oh, this is not for children.
And some of it's kind of dark. Like, to be honest, you'll read it and you're like, ooh, it's a little dark. But yeah, for sure. It's a cute little book. But
yeah, well, this first book that like I said, I just read is a murder mystery.
Yes. It is, yeah. It gets a little rough there for a while. There are some dead people and body parts. If you're into that.
Yeah.
It's not always like that, to be fair, for the story, the series itself. This one's first book sets it up really well for the rest of the books.
Okay.
They're just so devourable, if that's even a word. Like, they're so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was interesting because I was thinking it's like dark Narnia. That's how, if I was like doing
that is a great way to put it.
A quick way to explain it to someone. And they even talked about it a little bit in the book they were like, oh, if we're what actually happens to children when they slip away into these other worlds and comes back. And C.S. Lewis made it sound all light and magical, but like this is the real life way it would be. And yeah, because they slip away into these worlds and they like love it there and they don't want to come back and they're forced to come back. So I think that's how I took it in a little bit. And then what do you think, like the symbolism of them trying to find themselves and then not feeling accepted back when they come back to the regular world, right? Like they go to these worlds and they feel like this is where I'm supposed to be, and then they're pulled back.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. I do think about that, especially because that is a key element and theme throughout all of the books. Mm-hmm. And I am not sure if you've read the rest of or any of Seanan's other work. Mm-hmm. She also has pseudonyms, so she writes under other names as well. So she has just written so many books and she has so much work. But she talks a lot, I think, from experience of not feeling accepted. And I don't want to put words in her mouth. I don't know her. But based on her interviews that I've seen and other work that I've read by her, she has that kind of same theme of like maybe not feeling accepted in her world. And she's like really into the worlds in which she writes. I think about that sometimes because I sit there and I think some of these kids see they're back in their doors or they're not. And obviously each story is different, but there's like a reason in which they're not. And does that mean, hey, like maybe I'm not who I thought I was, or hey, like I was stuck in this world and that's who I think I should be. And I think it's a battle of who you are in that moment versus who you are in like another moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it can be a lot of different things too, for sure. A lot of the kids talk about acceptance from their parents.
Right.
Cade is transgender.
Right.
And I guess Cade is also related to Miss Eleanor.
Yeah, I think that she calls him his aunt, but I think they're more distantly related.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so when he transitioned to male, his parents rejected him.
Yeah.
At that point. And then Jack and Jill also talk about it too, of their perfectionist parents, and they like wanted to make each child like the perfect girl or the perfect boy, and then they switch. I don't know, without going into some of the other stories, without spoiling some of the other stories, because your face kind of lit up when I said Jack and Jill.
They're my favorite. I can't. Right. They're my favorite story.
Okay. Tell us about it then.
But before I go into that, I will say there's so much relatability around like wanting your parents to be like proud of you and accept who you are. Like, I think that's part of it too, is it's all her stories are relatable in a way if you really pick apart the stories. And that's huge. I felt that way as a kid. I still feel that way as an adult. I'm sure there are people all over that feel the same way. But Jack and Jill, yes, the second book dives into their story, and their story is super interesting. And I just love, I don't know, that's my story where I'm like, that is so funny. It's so interesting, nature versus nurture. And I appreciate how they go from like the parents essentially wanting to be perfect girl, perfect boy. They end up essentially swapping.
Yeah.
And I won't go into too much detail, but like they go down very different paths, and they just don't feel like they are accepted with the path in which their parents thought they should go. I don't know. It's interesting. I can't speak too much more on that because I don't want to give too much away. Yeah. You have to keep reading the stories. Yeah. And I feel like if I say too much, I don't want to be that person. So spoiler alert.
Yeah, we want people to read the book. That's
totally
the goal of this. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more. You know a lot about Seanan and her other books. Does she only write fantasy? I'm sure she's written more, but she's heavily involved in like the fantasy realm. She has written young adult books. She also has a pseudonym, Mira Grant. And I cannot remember the other one off the top of my head, but I have read some of her other work. She does have some sci-fi work too. Okay. It's super interesting. It's super heavy. A lot of her stuff is heavy, I will say, at least in the sci-fi space. But yeah, she is so interesting to me because I'm so envious of her writing. And I think that's what really draws me in is I respect any author, like hands down. But I think fantasy is really hard to write because you have to be in these worlds. You build these worlds. You have to remember all of the details that you put into these worlds. And she's won a ton of awards for her writing, and her writing is beautiful. So it really draws me in. And so I find myself,
I haven't read everything, but I find myself like referring back to basically her backlist and saying, what do I want to go back to and read? Because it's just great to read her stuff.
Right. Okay, so you keep talking. You're mentioning your writing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit, like, what are you writing right now?
Yeah, so I have always had a dream of being an author, being a writer. Like, that has been, like, one of my childhood dreams. I was never the person who's like, I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a teacher. I was like, I'm going to work for ESPN or I'm going to write a book. So random. But no, I've always wanted to write a book. And so I'm starting because I did have a book I was working on that was like 20,000 words, 20,000 pages, woo, 20,000 words, and I decided to scrap it and restart it. So I am writing a book, TBD, when it will live in the universe. But yeah, I'm writing a little bit every day. If I get 2 words in a day, if I get 10 the next day, if I get 1,000, like, I'm happy. I paused for a while and scrapped my book when I went back to school to get my MBA, and I just I've always wanted to do this. I was like, I'm tired of making excuses. Like, I was in school and then I was like, so I'm like, I've got to do this. I have a lot of support from my fiance and my friends. My friend V, shout out. She's a huge motivator for me to get it done. She's also writing a book as well. But yeah, I am writing something. I'm hoping for it to see the light of day. We'll see. But I'm just taking a little bit at a time. My goal is to have the first draft done by the end of the year, which again seems like forever away, but it'll be here before we know it.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
I'm just taking a little bit at a time.
Yeah. Can I ask you, what was that moment like when you decided to scrap 20,000 words?
I wrote it all, and then I was like, I paused for a while because of going back to school. You know, I was going back to school and working full time, so I was like, it's not possible with life things, and I had my boyfriend, we had our dogs, and like there's just, you know, we go on vacation, you know, you're finding every excuse not to do it. So I wrote it, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to start from the beginning, which you're probably thinking that is absolutely nuts, but I decided for me, like, I wanted to go back and just start fresh. I've had the same like idea for a while of what I want it to be. I don't know, I can't say that it's like the best work, because obviously nobody's first draft is going to be perfect.
Shitty first draft.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Yeah, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start from the beginning. So that was like a goal for this year. I'm not a huge like, I'm going to have just 5 goals for the year, but I was like, I'm doing this. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So for me, I was like, no more excuses. Just do it. Yeah. But yeah, it did kind of suck, because you're like, I wrote all this and I took so much time to do this, but then I sat there and I was like, no. And I know after following some authors, they say the same thing. Like, sometimes they're like, nope, I'm just going to get rid of it and start new. And it's crazy, because you put a lot of work and time into it, but then sometimes you're like, this just doesn't make sense, so let me just start from the beginning.
Yeah. And you work full time. You've got a lot going on. Like, how do you actually get all those words down?
Yeah. I just do the best I can. Like I said, like, as long as I get 2 words a day, that's fine.
Yeah.
Today I might write like 50 words, and that's cool. Like, I'm fine with that. I work full time. I stare at a screen most of my day, if not 95% of my day for work. And some nights I just don't feel like staring at a screen and typing. Like, my eyes have had enough. And so I'll just use dictations software. Sorry, I'm cheating. But like Google Sheets, it's as easy as that. You just hit the microphone, and sometimes I just talk it out, which again might be seen as cheating, but like sometimes you just need to get the words on the page, and if that's what it takes, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. So that's how I make it happen.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I didn't say it. I think for people like myself, maybe other people, it's, you think about doing something like this for so long, and it's like, you think of all these reasons like why you could not do it, and it's really inspiring to hear you actually like making it happen.
Thanks. Yeah, it's intimidating. Like, I may not ever be the most popular author in the world, but I don't think it ever hurts to try. Like, I'm a big fan of trying something once, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That could be food, that could be like a hobby, but like for me, I'm like, if I could look back on my life, hopefully 40, 45 years from now, and I didn't do that, like, I would probably regret it. And I don't want to live my life that way. So I'm like, you know what? I can try, and it might be crap, but at least I did it. So for me, I'm like, This is like the sweet spot, I feel like, in life where I don't have kids yet. I did the grad school thing. Like, I'm in a good spot. And I'm like, I just have no excuse not to. I'm just going to go for it and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Proud of you.
Thanks.
All right. Who are you as a reader?
Oh, we're getting deep. Who am I as a reader? I don't know. I learned how to read really young, and I just always gravitated towards stories. I grew up going to libraries, going to Barnes and Noble, and buying books, even though I could have gone to the library and just having like shelves of books. I don't know. That's a good question. As a reader, I'm just someone who enjoys a story, beautiful writing. I love being able to talk about books and share the love of reading. Like, it's super, the Bookstagram community, as we call it on Instagram in that space, is one of my favorite communities because everybody is just, first of all, so kind. I've never come across a unkind person. But everybody has the same love of books, and then you get to learn who someone is through reading, and you get to share your love of reading, and you share recommendations. And so I can't necessarily pinpoint who I am as a reader, but I will say I have always been an avid reader, and I love picking up a new book, trying something new, flexing my muscles in different spaces. I feel that I gravitate more towards fantasy. I love a good romance. I love a good thriller, but that's my sweet spot.
Yeah. Who would you compare Seanan McGuire to for other fantasy authors?
Ooh.
I was getting the TJ
Klune?
Klune?
Yeah.
Dark.
Yes.
Dark.
I am actually a huge fan of his work as well. Yeah, I would say that's pretty almost spot on. I was trying to think. She's hard to pinpoint. Her writing to me is just so different, but from a like character building, character development, and basically like common theme, threading a theme through the story, I think they both do a really good job and are pretty comparable.
Yeah. And just that found family kind of thing.
Yeah,
like, I'm not rejected by others.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Let's see. And so we've talked about Cade. We talked about Nancy. We talked about Jack and Jill. Within the first book, so she jumps in. Nancy dives into this world.
Yeah.
And she meets her roommate. And do you want to talk a little bit about those interactions? Like when she first gets into the school?
Yeah.
Can we pause first? Yeah, pause. Go for it.
I'm sweating. All nervous. I feel like I'm saying a lot.
No. Don't worry. And also, don't worry about stuff like that. Because, like, I will. My goal is to make you sound amazing with anything.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And also, I have software that just takes out all the ums anyway. So that specifically.
That is so smart. Yeah, I feel like I'm saying so I'm like, can I pause for a second?
Yeah, pause.
No, that's funny. I'm rereading my notes because I feel like you caught me off guard with who are you as a reader? I'm like, ooh, that's a deep question.
I thought you did a great job answering it. I just am always like, if I have something that pops in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to keep going.
No, I love that. Go
down
for
this trail a little bit.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, these books are hard. I don't want to give anything away because they're so short and everything thematically moves throughout. Oh, man. Jack and Jill. Sumi.
Love you, Sammy. That was something I was really amazed by, like going back and looking at the Wikipedia for this, I guess for the whole series. Because when you pull up the Wikipedia, so I have my like list of characters that I got to know reading this novella. And like the first 4 characters they list on the Wikipedia page, I'm like, who's that? That wasn't in this book. And so then I saw like some of the people that I thought maybe would not come back. They do come back. They have their own story in the future.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Are the other future books? Are the other books, are they set in the past?
It's all over the place.
Okay.
So some of the books, Seanan does a good job of having a lot of the characters come out in the first book. But then as you move through each book, like she'll focus on Jack and Jill in the second one. Mm-hmm. Sumi is in I think the third one. And all of a sudden new characters are then introduced and then they start popping up. So like she does a good job of the first, like threading the needle. And I will say like her most recent book, she started from like the beginning of one of the girls, and I'm blanking on her name all of a sudden, but one of her, like her story from the very beginning. She she lived in a foster home in Russia, and she was adopted by parents in the United States, and she just didn't feel like her mom wanted her to be this perfect American child and wanted her to love dolls and wear pink and just be, in her mind, the mom's mind, a normal kid. And so she ends up, they just go through the story, and they have this pond in the very back of their backyard, and she loves the turtles. And so she ends up like becoming friends with the turtles, and that's her thing. And so after dinner, after she does her homework, she goes to see the turtles. And then one day she goes through the door, and she's in a world where there are turtles and like the water and animals, and she pops back out of her door. I don't want to give too much away. Anyway, it starts from the very beginning, and it goes through like the whole thing, and then it stops of essentially her being at Eleanor's school. And then some will start smack dab in the middle of you're already in the world. Some will start like you just popped into like Eleanor's house or school, and then they'll come back through and talk about trying to find the door again. So it's a little all over the place, which keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate like how she does a really good job of telling certain stories.
Okay, yeah. So she can start, so even though we might have been introduced to the end of somebody's story in one book, another book might start at the beginning of the story.
Right, or smack dab in the middle.
Okay,
so
interesting. That's really good.
Yeah, and usually it's super fun, back to the point of these kids trying to find like their way and wanting to be accepted. Like, it's great to see all the kids try and help each other find their doors when they're at Eleanor's school, and they're just super supportive of one another, and I think it's a good testament and showcase of community. And I think she does a good job of that too. Of you find your people. You may not be what your parents want you to be, or like your teachers or whoever, but like you have this community that accepts you for who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, or what you thought it was going to be, what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
So life will find a way.
I know.
Life
is wild.
So find a way to pull you in a direction that you just never expect. 3 years ago, if you were like, you're going to be hosting a podcast and you're going to be meeting all these different people, I would have been like, what? Never would have thought of it. So anyway. And also, so you're making me think, so Serafina is in the first book. And again, for the listener, I have only read the first book. So I keep coming back to it. But so they keep talking about in the book that she's like Helen of Troy. So I'm guessing her story has some of those like kind of elements in that story as well.
Yeah, you dive a little bit more. I am trying to think back specifically. It's been a while since I've read some of the books, but her story comes back up. But I cannot recall, to be honest with you, if she has a full book. Because not all of them do.
Okay. Maybe it's coming.
A lot of, I'm sure there are. She has some series that she writes that are now like 20 books long in other series, and I hope she keeps going. I adore these books. Like, I get the arcs, and I'm like, I read them ahead of time, but then I buy the book. Gotta add it to my collection.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Okay. Keep it going. Do you know, where does she live? Where does Seanan live? Do you know?
Oh, man.
She's American, I think.
She is. I can't remember where she is, but I know that she does. She posts about her. I follow her on Instagram. Her cats. Like, she has like 5 or 6 cats, and she has a very eccentric life, and she was posting about how she was in New York at some point, but I think she's Midwest. If I had to take a guess, because whenever she tours, she's not. I don't think she's ever East Coast.
Okay, cool. And I also wanted to ask you about your Bookstagram.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So when did you start it?
I started it in COVID, as most did. So I started it in COVID because I don't do well. I'm sure you've noticed. I'm a fidgety person. I don't do well sitting still or being locked in my house. So it's funny. I'll sit and read a book all day long, but I can't sit and watch a TV show all day. I'm just really fidgety, but it's just somehow stuck me in. But I was like, what else am I going to do? I'm going to work, and I'm going to read, and that's probably all I'm going to do, because obviously at the time we didn't know what it was. We couldn't be around people. And so that was my outlet. And I had seen book accounts on my regular Instagram page consistently, and I was like, hey, I'm going to try this out. So I did, and it grew pretty quickly. And then, just like anything on social media, like the algorithm, you have to be consistent. And after a couple years, I was still posting. Like, I don't post as much anymore. I'm always on my stories more than anything. But I decided to go back to grad school, and so that kind of took a back seat, and that meaning the Instagram page. And Now I'm still reading quite a bit. I just don't post as often. I'm more, again, on my stories. It's just, I don't like to live my life on my phone as much. I was definitely on my phone a lot more in my 20s than I am now in my 30s. Yeah, I'm, as cheesy as this sounds, more like in the moment. Sometimes I'll post things and sometimes I won't, but I'm on Goodreads and Storygraph. So I'm still reading.
Yeah. So. That's interesting too. So I'm not great at social media. And so like for Instagram, like for your stories, do you still get followers from posting?
Yeah, I still get followers. It's not as, again, I'm not putting in the effort to necessarily get followed. That's never been something that's super important to me.
Okay.
It's more important to me to share my love of reading with other people and be able to connect. Like, some of my closest friends are people I've met through Bookstagram, which people will be like, that's weird, but we also have dating apps, so there's that too. So it's like kind of the same thing. Yeah. So for me, it's more of the community. Like, I'm an extrovert, so I love people and I love meeting people. And so for me, it's more, I don't need to have 20,000 followers. That's not like the most important thing to me. What's most important is like having a kind, fun community to be able to share my love of reading. So yeah.
If someone is interested in getting involved in the Bookstagram, like I know I've had other Bookstagram people on here, but like I've never actually really asked any questions. Are they like, what would you say to them to get involved, or like what kind of things work to meet your tribe?
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, right? So you start your account if you want to do it. Definitely just reach out. I commented on people's posts and all of a sudden I was talking, like we were following each other, talking about books. And like sometimes it just takes starting the conversation. So if there's, when you start an Instagram account, it'll be like people you may know, or it'll start like showing up as like book accounts because it's within. So I would just recommend start commenting and start the conversation. If you want to find your people, I feel like Bookstagram's the place to be, but that could be biased.
Yeah. What do you think of Book Talk?
I can't lie. I don't have TikTok. I'm not that cool. I am selective in what I would say is a time suck. So for me, my sisters have TikTok. My parents have TikTok.
Your parents have TikTok?
Yes, they're so savvy. I love it. And my mom tried to send me a TikTok the other day, and I was like, I don't have it. And so she was just sending me screenshots. It was super funny. But yeah, TikTok's not really my jam. Like, I'd rather time suck reading or writing or on Instagram, scrolling Instagram. I'm not a huge TV watcher, but yeah, I think Book Talk is great, just like Instagram. And it gives authors, it gives people who love books like that community and being able to spread the love of in like different books. And I think it's a great, just like anything, an informational platform, but I try and limit my time suck apps.
Okay. Yeah, I do too. I don't think that I'm like the target. The target audience for any of it, just because I get bored after like I see like 2 stories or 2 posts, and I'm just like, I could be doing something else right now.
Yeah, Instagram has reels. Yeah, it's the same as. People say it's not the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I feel like I'll see someone be like, oh, this TikTok. I was like, I just saw that on Instagram. So, yeah. I know that sounds like such an old lady answer, but I'm like, I can only take but so many apps at one time.
Yeah.
I'll stick with Bookstagram.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to, like, get more into Instagram myself and that kind of thing. But just like you, I'm like... I could be, like, I'm always, like, having to read books for the podcast, or I'm always having to review books, too, and I have a book club, and I'm just...
Love that.
Busy.
I know. So many books, so little time. I mean, truly. I feel like I have so many books, and I add them to my shelf, or, like, my Kindle, or the library, and I'm like... And then life happens.
Yeah.
And you gotta prioritize.
What's your favorite book you've read recently?
Ooh. So I wanted to talk about Every Heart a Doorway because I feel like it's a book that's not often talked about. Like there are common, well-known fantasy type books that are out there. And people who listen to this who know me will laugh, but I am getting through Throne of Glass.
Okay.
And so I have Kingdom of Ash left.
Okay.
And I did the tandem read of Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn. And that was... horrible in a loving way. Like it's a lot. It's a behemoth. Like you have to be committed.
Yeah.
And I actually loved doing it. At the end, like it's stressful because you're like, all right, let me make sure I like finish this chapter to then move to this. And it's like these thick books. But
how many pages of those books? Just the listener hasn't.
700 each. So it was like 1,400-ish pages. Yeah. And so it's really intimidating. I don't have a problem reading one thick book, but two at the same time is a commitment. So I will say that series, like everybody who reads them will say, hey, like this is the best of her, like Sarah J. Maas, her list of series she has. I was like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Because I read ACOTAR and then I read Crescent City and then I decided to dive into Throne of Glass. So I will say, for those who read ACOTAR, I would recommend Throne of Glass.
Okay.
I'm waiting to read Kingdom of Ash because I heard it absolutely destroys you and it gives you a really bad like reading slump. So I'm like, I think I'm going to pause for a moment and come back to that. But that was really good. And then I just finished for my book club. I have a fantasy book club every month that I host and with help from other folks when obviously life happens.
Okay.
And we just finished reading Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. And it's actually really good. It's different. It's a fantasy read, but it's pretty thick too. It's roughly like 500 pages. Okay. And so that's a pretty good read.
Where is your book club? Is it in person?
It's virtual. So I have folks who are in Seattle.
Oh, wow.
And folks who are here and folks who are in Delaware. So it's everybody's everywhere. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Bookstagram to thank for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
There you go. Then we'll definitely make sure. I don't know. Can you take new people in your...
Yeah. The more the merrier.
Okay.
The more the merrier. Yeah. I don't necessarily have a page for anything, but if you follow me on Bookstagram, like, message me. I'm all about it. Join the club.
All right. Love it. I wanted to come back to Every Heart a Doorway and just talk about who would you recommend this story for?
I think anybody who's willing and open to escaping into another world, because that's honestly, again, back to what I talked about earlier of like when you're in a rough place and you like the world is crazy and things are going on and things are happening and you're like, I don't know if I really want to do this. I would rather like just tune it all out. I would say if you want something that's beautifully written and a place where you can escape, and actually as sometimes morbid as some of these books are, or this book in particular is, it will put a smile on your face and it's somewhat relatable. That's all a jumble weight of saying is I would recommend this to people who want something different and it's digestible. It's tiny. It's 170 pages. Yeah. Someone who wants a quick read, wants something totally different, I would recommend that.
Yeah. Cool. And the audiobook, I did the audiobook. It's 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I've never tried the audio on that. I'm weird about audiobooks. I'm really picky.
Yeah. Is it the narrator or?
Yeah, I'm usually I like a nonfiction, like a memoir or biography or something like that. I'm just now diving into fiction, but yeah, it depends on who's narrating it, whether I can like really focus on it or not. So
yeah, getting into it a little bit. Is there anything about the book that we didn't talk about that you wanted to make sure we got to?
No, I would say just give it a chance. Like, not a lot of people know about it. It's not super popular. I know my friend Michaela, who I also met through Bookstagram, I got her into the series and as obsessed as I am. And I like to share the love of this series because I just think it's really different. And again, like tying back to the writing, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful writing, beautiful prose. I just feel like if you want to really be sucked into a world and enjoy a short story, like this is where to go. And there are a lot of fantasy books out there. And like I said, there are behemoths out there. A lot of fantasy books are really thick and behemoths. And I totally respect the world building. But if you want to start and you want to try fantasy, I think this is a good place to start.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to put a spotlight on? We've talked about your Bookstagram, book club.
No, but hey, follow me on Bookstagram if you're interested. I, again, don't post as often, but I'm always on my stories, like sharing random stuff, music I'm listening to, books I'm listening to or reading. My dogs, if you like dogs.
What are your dogs' names?
Ollie is my dachshund. He just turned 8, so he's my old man. He likes to sleep and snuggle with me when I read. And then Smokey is our German Shepherd. Okay. She's 107 pounds on a good day.
Okay.
She's our behemoth.
Yeah.
And she is just the sweetest. She thinks she's Ollie's size, but she is just the sweetest pup in the world. And she likes to pose for my book picture. So, yeah. So if you like cute pups and dogs and music and anything under the sun, like, definitely follow me. And also, I'm always open to talking books, so definitely reach out. And I love trying new books. So please, all the book recommendations.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks so much for being here
Yeah.
today. Making it down here the day after you're not partying, celebrating your engagement. Oh, yeah. Thanks so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yay. Thank you for spending some time with me and my guest for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.